Okay, so we are on unit 3.5, and that is working on factor trinomials with leading coefficients. Factor trinomials with leading coefficients. So basically what that means, if we kind of break that down, a trinomial, so we're going to be factoring things with 3 terms and something called a leading coefficient. All that means is a number in front. Okay, so we're going to be factoring things 3 terms with a number in front. Okay, so they're going to be in the form ax squared plus or minus bx plus or minus c. Okay, so they're going to be trinomials with numbers in front. Okay, so when we first started to learn how to multiply binomials, I would tell you to FOIL something like 3x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 3. Okay, so initially, ax squared, yes. So when we first started dealing with binomials, we were actually foiling them together. Okay, so if you remember correctly, FOIL stands for first, outside, inside, last. So if you multiplied first times first, you would get 3x squared. If you multiply the outsides together, you'd get a plus 9x. If you multiply the inside terms together, we would get plus 2x. And if you multiplied last term times last term, we would get a 6. Okay, we'd combine the like terms and got 3x squared plus 11x plus 6. Okay, what we've created right now is a leading coefficient trinomial. So instead of foiling them together today, we're going to go backwards. Okay, we're going to be factoring them. So your instructions are going to tell you to factor completely. Factor completely. Okay, for number 1. If I asked you to factor completely, 7a squared plus 22a plus 3. 7a squared plus 22a plus 3. Now, there is a trick to doing these, okay? Some of you may have learned something called bottoms up, okay? That's a trick to factoring trinomials with numbers in front. I am not going to show you that trick, largely because the numbers that we're going to have to deal with are just too big, okay? And because there's a couple of steps in the trick that everybody always forgets. So instead of teaching you a trick, I'm just going to teach you how to do them, okay? So we're going to do something called the guess and check method, okay? And guess and check basically means we look at the front numbers. So what are the factors that would give you 7? 1 and 7, okay? And we look at the back numbers. What are the factors that would give you 3? 1 and 3, okay? This one, fairly basic because there's not very many options, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to do our 2 parentheses, and we are going to guess at what my factors will be, and then check them, and I will show you how to check them, okay? What are your 2 signs going to be? Both plus, both minus, or one of each? Both plus. Remember, if it's plus at the end, they both have to be the same as the middle. So both will be plus here. Now, our front factors are 1 and 7. So you know you're going to have a 1a and a 7a in there. Now we're going to guess at where we want the 1 and 3 to go. Would I like to put the 1 in the first parentheses or the second one? We just guess, okay? So if you put a 1 and you put a 3 here. Now, we've guessed. Now we have to check, okay? You have to check in the middle. We check in the middle by basically doing a little bit of the of the foiling that we did earlier. You want to check to see that middle portion to see if it works. So, 1 times 7a gives you 7a. 1 times 3a gives you 3a. If I add those together, do I get the target middle? No, I messed up. So that means I guessed wrong. So all that tells you is you have to move things around. So here, 1 and 3 didn't work. What could I do though? I could flip them around. So that's why this is called guess and check. We guess and then we check the middle. Now, sometimes you're just going to check in your head and that's fine, okay? But if you choose to write this down, if I wrote it this way, when you multiply those together, we'd get 21a. 1 times 1 gives you 1a. Does that give us my target middle? It does. So these are the correct factors. So we're just guessing and checking. And that's it. Okay? Let's try another one. For number 2, again, I want you to factor completely. 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. So the first thing you always want to do is write your front factors. So what would multiply to give you 2 has to be 1 and 2. What gives you 12? I have a couple more options here. Could be 1 and 12. Could be 2 and 6. Or I could have 3 and 4. Now, you do not have to list 4 and 3 because we already have 3 and 4 there. So once you get to here, you can stop. Okay, then I'm going to do my 2 parentheses. Now, what do my signs have to be on this one? Both plus, both minus, or one of each? One of each. One of each. So for these, you're also guessing and checking the signs. We're not just guessing and checking on the numbers. So you do know that your front has to be 1x and 2x. Now, do you have to put the 1 in front? No, not necessarily. But I'm just going to write it just to be efficient. Now, is there any factors that I could totally decide they would not work to put in here? Why would 1 and 12 not work? Just because you've multiplied them? Because 12's too big. Wait, say it again. Oh, because 12 is bigger than 5. Okay. But remember, here we're going to have one that's adding and one that's subtracting. What I'm going for here is, what do you always have to do the first step when you factor? You look for a GCF, right? We looked through here. Was there a GCF? No, there's not a GCF there. So no matter what you do, if you picked 2 and 6, if I put 2 in here, look what happens. It would have been able to take out a GCF. And I know I couldn't. I also couldn't put a 6 in there because you would have been able to take out a GCF. So start looking for those kinds of things. Okay? There's no way it could be 2 and 6 because no matter what you put in here with this 2, it would have a GCF. And your original problem did not. So you know that it can't be 2 and 6. Now I have to just guess. So I'm going to use 1 and 12 or 3 and 4?
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Okay, which one should go in the first parentheses? The 3 or the 4? Has to be the 4, right? Because I couldn't put it here because then it would have a GCF. So I can put the 3 here. Now, when you multiply these together, that gives you an 8x. When you multiply these together, we get a 3x. Now remember, I want to get a positive 5. So the positive 5 would come from a positive 8 and a negative 3. So when you put in your signs, you're going to follow these little arrows, okay? That one will be plus. The outside one needs to be negative. And that is completely factored. Okay, so these are something that you have done before, but they are a bit more difficult than just a regular trinomial factoring. Okay, let's try another one. And a lot of these, they just take some practice, to be honest. Okay, they just take some practice on factoring these. Okay, for number 3, I would like you to factor completely 6y squared minus 11y plus 4. 6y squared minus 11y plus 4. Again, you first want to look for a GCF. So is there anything that can come out of all of these terms? No, there's not. So now I'm going to break down my factors. So 6 could be 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. 4 could be 1 and 4 or 2 and 2. Okay, so we have more options here. You know this is going to break down to be 2 parentheses. Okay, what are both of the signs going to be? Both will be negative, right? And now we just guess and check. Okay, we're going to guess at which ones are the first ones. Do you want to use 1 and 6 or 2 and 3?
2 and 3.
2 and 3? Okay, so remember 2y and 3y. And then I have to guess again. Do I want to use 1 and 4 or 2 and 2? Is there any that you could eliminate here?
2 and 2.
Couldn't be 2 and 2. Why? Because of the GCF. Exactly. So, can I completely cancel out 2 and 2? Yes. I know that's not going to be it. Okay, so let's use 1 and 4. Hopefully we realize that the 1 should go first, then the 4, because you couldn't put the 4 in here, because then there would be a GCF. Now, check these. Okay, so that gives you a negative 3y. This gives us a negative 8y. And does that give me my target middle? Yes, it does. So those are your factors. I'm sorry? You're good at picking numbers? Good. Okay, let's try another one. For number 4, again, I want you to factor completely. 3t squared minus 32t plus 20. 3t squared minus 32t plus 20. So always look for GCF, because I guarantee you there will be some that you can actually take out of GCF. So this could break down to be 1 and 3. 20 breaks down to be 1 and 20, 2 and 10, or 4 and 5. When you break these down, it's kind of nice when they don't have very many factors for one of the terms. So here you know it's going to have to be 1t and 3t. Do you know what your signs will be? Both plus, both minus, or one of each? Both. Plus at the end means they're both the same as the middle. So here will be both negative. Okay, and which ones do we want to pick? You want to pick 1 and 20, 2 and 10, or 4 and 5? 2 and 10. Okay, should the 2 go first or second? Second. Now, some of you guys are getting good at doing these in your head, I can tell. Right? And that's great. Okay? When you multiply these, you get a negative 30t. Multiply these, we get a negative 2t. And yes, that does give you what you want in the middle. Now, if you can do the check in your head, that's fine. Okay? If you need to write it out, that's fine. I'm sorry. Underneath, you do not have to write it underneath on your homework if you're doing it in your head. Okay, that's fine. But I'm saying in your brain, you need to be checking. So if you're doing this part in your head, that's fine. Okay, but if you need to see the work, if you're a visual person, then you can write it down as well, of course. Okay. Number 5, also, if you're showing the work and it's on like a quiz or a test or something, and I can see where you're going, then at least I can give you some partial credit as opposed to just your answer's completely wrong. Right? For number 5, I'm going to try 18c squared plus 41c minus 10. 18c squared plus 41c minus 10.